Good evening. Good evening. I'm audible. I'm visible. Yes. Good evening to all of you. Good evening. Yes, very good. Perfect. We'll start in the next 1 to 2 minutes. We'll wait for everybody to join in and then we'll start. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. It's good to see you all again. I should be audible, Shivani. If I'm not, please refresh. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Akhilesh, I have no idea about that. Welcome, Are. No, Ilma. It's totally on Hastings. This is only English Janvi. There's a separate Hindi class. Okay, we'll wait 1 more minute and then we'll start. I'm waiting for everybody to join in. So, weekly current affairs, 5 to 6 important topics which dominated the news. Manipur will be covered in mains based current affairs because it's a little bit more complicated and this is more prelims oriented in that regard. And there we will bring in all other aspects with regards to that. Here we have much smaller but important topics in that regard. Good evening, good evening, good evening. We'll wait 1 more minute and then we'll start. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Anu, see, the standard model is that on Tuesday and Thursday we have webinars. Tuesday ones are called weekly current affairs, which is more oriented towards prelims. On the other hand, Thursday is more mains oriented, whereas we have GS paper 1, GS paper 2, GS paper 3. Those are much more complicated, much bigger issues in that regard. Okay, good evening. Good evening. Email me, Ilma. I'll send you that research paper. How to revise monthly a magazine, we'll discuss that. Yes, it's 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay. Pulkit, I am not sure about that. I'm not sure about that. Okay. Now, so welcome to the session. We have to discuss weekly current affairs. As I said, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we have what are called webinars, and both have different orientation. Today's class is more about smaller topics, prelims oriented topics, multiple topics, 8 topics we discuss. On the other hand, Thursday, when we discuss, what we discuss is GS paper 1, we discuss Yojana Kurukshetra. So the structure is all together different in that regard. So today's agenda, before we go to that, I hope all of you are attempting the MTS examination, which is happening every Sunday. The GS paper 1 happened on Sunday itself. We'll be discussing that on Wednesday. On Wednesday, 12 to 3, we will have discussions for the MTS papers. 15 tests have been lined up for you. So I hope you are attempting this. Answer writing extremely important. And you have to do it irrespective of whatever year you are. If you're part of the course for multiple years, you have to make sure that you're writing answers throughout the program itself. With this, the 8 topics we discussed today. First is the Kavach system, has been in the news quite a lot. Then Indus X and ISET. Then Agni Prime, a very important launch happened recently. Atlantic Declaration, these type of questions are very representative and standard in the examination. Mahir mission, a virus which has affected the US but is actually quite important for your science and technology. Antardrishti initiative related to the RBI, will discuss that, and Soul of Steel challenge. Now, when you look at these topics, they encompass each and every aspect of GS paper 1, 2, 3. So you have certain topics related to science and technology, certain related to governance, certain related to polity, certain related to international relations. And that is the beauty of a Tuesday lecture, wherein we are covering multiple topics, 8, whilst we'll cover 6 or 5 in a Thursday one. But for anybody who is new here, as I said, a Tuesday webinar, which is weekly current affairs webinar, is much more prelims oriented rather than mains, because we have specific ones which happen on Thursday. So if everybody is ready, everybody is here, can we start a discussion for today? Yes? Okay, perfect. So the first topic which we discussed today is Kavach, and this is based on the context of it. And if you haven't taken my classes, if you're totally new, the basic thing is I have a very simple style of teaching, which is I will first give you the basic understanding, then we'll go into the nitty-gritty of the topic through the PPT itself, and then we'll summarize in the end. This is to make sure that within the session itself, you're learning with me first, then revising with me twice. So these 8 topics, I will give you basic understanding first, very simple understanding. Then we'll go into the smaller details of it. And then we will finish with a summary. And I'll keep on giving you summaries as we go on. So this is the standard thing. We have prelims-based questions in the end of each topic. You will attempt it through the polling feature. So let us start. I think my voice is totally okay, Mahi. If there's any issue, just refresh. Everybody's also already consented that my voice and my video is totally clear. Okay. So why are we discussing Kavach? We all know that recently there was a major, one of the most horrific, we can say, accidents in railway history of independent India in that regard. Close to 300 people, and the number is increasing as we go on. 300 to 400 people died in this accident. Happened in Orissa and in the Balasore district itself, and there were 2 trains which were involved. So the Bahanaga Bazar railway station, which was the epicenter of all of what happened in the Balasore district of Odisha, is where our focus is. And with such a ghastly, such a bad train accident, there has been a UN cry and a new concept, though not new within our railway history itself, but Kavach system has become the focus of everything which happened. And therefore, now as a UPSC aspirant, we need to know the nitty-gritty of the Kavach system itself. How does it work? And this is extremely important for prelims and mains both. But before we do that, first, let's try to understand what really happened in that incident. Because if we understand the incident first, you will automatically understand why would this system actually not work. So there has been a lot of criticism that why on this route there was no Kavach, and if Kavach would have been there, it would have worked. But the first rule is that it would not have worked because of the way the incident happened. So if we look at the basic incident itself, there are basically at the Bahanaga railway station, there are 4 tracks in 2 loops. There are 4 tracks in 2 loops, and the loops are basically connected through what are called interlocking. I'll just show you what is an interlocking. This is an interlocking. Interlockings are either you can go straight or you can be interlocked to go to left. So interlockings are very, very standard system and technology within railways itself. And very simply, what we see is that there were 2 interlocks here. One went like this, and the second one went like this. On the other hand, you have one more loop here. So these loops are very important, but because what happens is that if trains or super fast trains are on a certain track, trains which are slower or don't have to reach at a certain amount of time are pushed onto outer tracks. So at the Bahanaga station itself, what happened was that on the fateful night of 2nd June, there were 2 what are called goods train, mal gadis, standing here. One with coal and the other one with iron ore. And iron ore and coal are extremely heavy, what we call as compounds itself, and generally the train also is very, very heavy. So the Malgadi is at most of its highest capacity when it comes to iron ore or coal being transported. Now there are two basic trains which are involved. First is called the Coromandel Express or the Shalimar Coromandel Express, and the other one is called the Yashwantpur Havda Express. Now, what we know of as of right now, and the CBI inquiry is going on, is that there was a major error which happened in signaling and interlocking. And if you understand this incident, then only you will understand how would Kavach not work in this incident. See, what happens is that there is a signal here, there's a signal here, and this is interlocking. These two interlockings are there. Now, the train driver, Coromandel Express, was first given a green signal. And a green signal coming from this side would have meant that this interlock was straight. That this interlock would be straight. Only if the interlock would be straight, he would have been given a green signal, because the train does not need to go into the loop. It needs to go straight on and does not need to take a left. Now, what happens is that first the train driver is given a green signal, and thereafter that is turned into red once he has already crossed the signal itself. So he can't see back and he doesn't know what is the signal now. And what we believe is that based on the electronic interlocking system, this interlock was actually not straight, but was moved to the left position. And at 128 kilometers per hour, this train should have gone straight, but rather veered to the left, and this engine went into the iron ore goods train back last carriage itself. As soon as that happens, that's a very huge impact. And what happens is that the train derails. And when it derails, coincidentally and unfortunately, the Yashwantpur Havda Express was going from this side. This interlock was totally fine. However, the three bogies which went off from the Coromandel Express hit the last three bogies of the Havda Express, and therefore total trains involved were basically 2 which derailed, and 4 if you add the 2 Malgadis which are involved. Now, very simply, prima facie, the Coromandel Express, which veers to the left first, and second, the Yashwantpur Havda Express. This is a very heavy route, and it's a very high speed route. This was close to 98 kilometers per hour, and this was 128 kilometers per hour. Now, what we believe generally is that this type of accident could have been avoided by Kavach. But when I will teach you Kavach, you will understand that Kavach would also not have actually stopped this incident from happening. But the first and foremost point is that this was a signaling issue, and it was related to interlocking. So very simply, the interlock should have been straight, but the interlock was kept towards the left. And this is done electronically from the station itself. And it is not a very new system, very old, very reliable system that way, but has now created one of the most dangerous incidents. So the basic point is, one train was going from this side, the second train was going from this side, and you've seen train crosses each other on opposite directions. The first train derails and hits the second train last bogies. So the first train derails, the first 3 bogies derail, and they hit the last 3 bogies of the last one. That is why it was such a big mess with regards to how there were 4 trains involved, but 2 trains directly, passenger trains, derailed. So the first and foremost point is, do you understand the basic incident wherein the Coromandel Express and the Yashwantpur Havda Express, how they collided with each other? If you understand the basic incident, then we can talk about how it impacts, or would have there been any change with regards to Kavach in that regard. Okay, so we understand this. So now let's try to understand Kavach. See, the Kavach system is called an automatic train protection system. It's called an ATP. And let me clear this. Okay. So how does an ATP actually work? So there are different standards of train, what are called automated systems. This is at standard 4, which is quite high according to European standards in that regard. Kavach is the name of a system which is based on what is called automatic train protection system. It's called an ATP, automatic train protection system. Now there are basic multiple components here. And the way Kavach works is through radio transmission, RFIDs, and certain dashboards. So let's take examples. For example, there's a train. There's a train which has a Kavach system itself. So what happens is there are two components to a Kavach. There would be a station, and a station would have a Kavach system itself. It would have a main hub or server. And thereafter, we will have a repeating tower so as to connect with the train itself. And when you talk about the train, every train on a Kavach, very simply, has a Kavach system onboarded. So there's a train here, and this train has a Kavach system onboarded. So every component has two basic components. One is the Kavach station system. The other one is the Kavach train system. These are two things. Now, how does it work? The first feature of Kavach is that, for example, this train was given a red signal. Now, in a foggy condition or in very bad weather, it is very hard for the train driver to see the basic signals itself. So what happens is, because it has been turned red, the Kavach system relays it to the tower, and the tower sends it to the train, and in the train driver would have a basic dashboard which would say that the signal is red. Even before reaching the basic signal, the basic signal has already been relayed to the driver. So this is called early signaling system, that even before reaching the physical signal, the signal has already been relayed to the driver. Now, for example, it was given red and the driver ignored it. The driver ignored it and he has not braked. If that is going to be the case, Kavach automatically slows down the train and automatically pushes the brake itself. This is called automated braking on exceeding speed limit or not, or crossing a red signal. So very simply, if it was red and the driver ignores it, the train automatically stops. This is the first main component. This is called automated braking. In fog conditions, it is extremely hard to see, and maybe the train driver will come very close to the signal and then get to know it is red, and it could lead to certain accidents. This is basically a way of sending electronically what is the basic signal ahead. This is the first system. Second is that it gives you live monitoring. What do you mean by live monitoring? Live monitoring is that every track has what is called RFIDs. These are small boxes which have certain relays in them. And every time a train crosses, a train has an RFID reader. So every time the train crosses, this could be at every 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers. Every time the train crosses, the RFID reader picks that RFID up, and therefore the live location is relayed to the station master. So this allows for exact minute to minute movement of trains can be actually seen. So it gives you live monitoring. Thereafter, in fog conditions, again, it is very hard to see what are called level crossings. You would have seen it for yourself. These are called level crossings, which go up from where cars can go and they go down. These are called level crossings. Level crossings again are not very visible in bad conditions. So what it does is that whenever it automatically crosses a level crossing, there is automatic whistle. This is again automated whistling system, wherein wherever the train has to whistle, it will automatically whistle. And the most important feature of the Kavach system is first that you can send SOS messages to the station master if there's a major untoward incident. But the most important concept is called train-to-train collision can be avoided. One train here, and there's one more train here. Two trains on the same track moving towards each other. What happens is that the Kavach system can see that on the same track there are two trains. So it will relay the main Kavach system to auto brake, and the trains will stop 400 meters apart. So very simply, there are 6 to 7 standard features. First, on crossing a signal without having green, the train automatically stops, auto braking. Second, the live monitoring system. Third, SOS messages, meaning emergency messages between the station master and the train driver or the loco pilot. Fourth, which is the train to train collision system avoidance through what we call as live location, RFIDs, and automatic braking. So the train driver has to not brake, the train will automatically brake. And last but not the least is that there is early signaling. So early signal is very, very important when it comes to fog conditions. Does this make sense? Very simple, straightforward. I'll read it out to you also, and it should be fine. The simple point is, the way this works is that it gives you early warning, it gives you early signaling, it gives you what we call as live monitoring, and it avoids train on the same track moving towards each other. This is the beauty of this whole system itself. Now, would Kavach work at the Balasore incident? Yes or no? Come on. RFIDs are nothing but NFCs, if you've ever seen. They are basically sensors which are on the track itself. Would Kavach work at Balasore? Very good. No. It would not work for a very simple reason. Because at Balasore, firstly, green signal was given. And second, it was turned red, maybe okay. And if the Kavach system would have got to know that it has turned red, to stop a train at 128 kilometers per hour, it at least needs 2 to 3 kilometers. And therefore, Kavach does not look towards interlocking. It does not monitor interlocking. And because it was an interlocking base incident, even if Kavach would have somehow tried to push the brakes, it was already too late and too fast. It was too fast, it was too late, and it was too sudden. So the speed of the train was too fast. More than that, even if the driver would have noticed anything, imagine, and I'm telling you the horrific accident in such a, imagine that you are a train driver and you know that you have to go straight, and at 128 kilometers per hour, the train goes left. There is no reaction time here. So very simply, the criticism of the fact that Kavach would have helped, it would not have helped. Kavach has its disadvantages, the basic fact being that interlocking is not actually monitored, and it is a very expensive system. Though it is the cheapest across the world, at the volume at which we need to put in, it is an expensive system. As it is a very good system which should be there irrespective of anything. So the first and foremost point was, I have explained to you the concept of the accident itself, and I've explained to you the basic aspects. So if this is clear, then we will move to the nitty-gritty. I'll go into even more further detail, wherein we'll see what are the basic features in the train, what are the basic features at the station master. It's an interlocking issue, actually an interlocking issue. Yes. Now, let's talk about this whole system. As I said, now please start to register. This is our first revision. Once we do this first revision, we will go for the second revision when I end this topic. The Kavach system is an indigenously developed automatic train protection system, ATP, and it has been developed by the Research, Design and Standards Organization in collaboration with the Indian Railways, knowing what is the basic need for it. According to European standards, it goes into safety integrity level 4, and therefore it is a very safe system generally. Now, what are the basic aspects here? It provides protection by preventing trains to pass signal at red and avoid collision. It activates the train braking system automatically if the driver fails to reduce the speed under a certain restriction. Further, it prevents the train from colliding on the same track. It sends SOS messages if there's an emergency situation, and it can also live monitor. Therefore, it is a very good system, cheapest in the world, but still expensive. And the probability of error is 1 in 10,000 years. So 1 in 10,000 years, it will show you an error. If we go by what the Indian Railways says, let us be more specific in what Indian Railways puts out in that regard. So Kavach controls the speed of train, and by automatic application of brakes in case of loco pilot failing to do so, repeats line side signal in the cabin, which is very useful in foggy conditions. So if the line is red, there will be a dashboard in front of the loco pilot which will say red signal. It's a very good system. This can help in very foggy conditions. Works on the principle of continuous update on movement, so continuous monitoring. Auto whistling at LC gates, which is what is called level crossing gates. Collision avoidance if they are on the same track itself. And SOS feature when the train goes out of control or there is a mishap. So for example, we got to know about the incident close to 20 minutes later because there was no way of telling that. So in that case, other loco pilots can press the SOS symbol and say that there's something which has happened at the Mahanaga or at the Balasore district station itself. So it helps you in reeling. So basically the station master and the loco pilot both get connected very well. So think of it like a WhatsApp system if you want to, that very simply it can very simply relay messages between the two, which is the station and the train. The second one is the most important, which is that, please try to understand it, and all of you would have in your life for sure, and it can't be, you would have seen a train and you'd have seen a track and you've seen a signal for sure. So in that context, you know that when the train crosses, it sees what are called line-based, what are called track-side signals. The loco pilot sees the track-side signal and he automatically brakes or increases. He knows it is red or green. But in fog, it is not visible. So what happens is it electronically sends a message close to 1 kilometer before the signal itself, because the signaling system is integrated with Kavach. So Kavach knows what is the signal in that regard. That is the basic point. Simple point is loco pilot is still needed because he is the one who is going to accelerate and brake. But if it fails to brake, it brakes. In cars, you would have seen, and nowadays you would have actually heard about it. It's called ADAS system. ADAS system that which are in very high-end cars, which is that the car brakes for you, it automatically speeds up for you. For example, Tesla car. That's a very good example of an ADAS. So it's like an ADAS system. A Kavach is basically an ADAS for a train, wherein automated driving advanced systems are integrated into the train itself. It's an expensive one because every train needs to have it, every station needs to have it. So are we clear with regards to features of Kavach? Yes. Yes. Now, what are the components of Kavach? As I said, there are two types of components in this. One which needs to be put in on the track side and on the train station, and one which is on the onboard system. First is called the loco Kavach unit. This is the server which needs to be on the train itself. Thereafter, there will be what is called driver machine interface. This is the dashboard he has, which shows all the basic data, restriction, speed, what is the signal. And there is what is called the RFID readers, which read the track side RFID tags. So you have at the station a Kavach server, the main hub in which all the information is coming, the track side small RFID readers, and thereafter a tower needs to be there so that the train and the station master can interact in that regard. So it is a system which needs to be on the train also and on the station also. In this sense, the most important thing which has been in the news and which has been pushed quite a lot is that the traffic collision avoidance system, the TCAS, may have worked or helped in this situation. And we know it would not have, because it's an interlocking issue. So the TCAS can actually see through the radio frequency what are called identification, the RFID tags, helps in two-way communication and also gives you the basic situation or the location of the train itself. The most important aspect is the instrument panel in the loco pilot. What is in front of the loco pilot can in advance, without visual signaling, give permissible speeds, give the basic signal itself. If red signal is there, automatic braking. This is the most important point. Hooter will automatically activate when it comes to the level crossing itself. So before we go up, talk about implementation, where has it been implemented, please try to understand what is the system. It's not difficult, but you actually need to know the basic aspects here. There are 5 basic aspects. Now I'm doing the second revision with you. Please pay attention. If there's anything, employee efficiency is a problem, no. Employees are not involved. This is all basic, what we call as equipment based things. The 5 basic features of Kavach. First, TCAS, which is train collision avoidance system, wherein 2 trains of the same track will stop 400 meters away from each other. What is called advanced signaling and auto braking. When the signal is red, it will show you red 1 kilometer before and automatically brake for you. SOS messages, thereafter what we call as live monitoring, and fifth and the most important, which is auto whistling at the level crossing. Are these 5 points clear? Okay, very simply. Now, how have we been applying Kavach? Because Kavach has been in the news and is a system which we know since 2014 itself. So close to 10 years is there. Auto whistling means that if it's crossing a level crossing, it will automatically whistle. Train whistle also you would have heard for sure. Now, it's an indigenous system, has nothing out of Europe, totally indigenous system. Now the question is, how are we implementing it? See, both the Shalimar Chennai Coromandel Express and Yashwantpur Havra Express neither had Kavach or neither TCAS. On the other hand, Kavach has not been implemented on this line also. Havra Kharagpur Chennai line. This line has no Kavach in that regard. No station has it, no train has it. Now you would say, sir, where are we then using it? We are using it in the South Central Railways. This is the best example of the zone in which TCAS and more than that, the Kavach system has been very well implemented. So South Central Railways, the whole 1400 kilometers under it, 77 locomotives and 135 stations, all have Kavach. Then how does the railway decide which sector should have Kavach first and second? In that comes the concept of prioritizing. It is first believed that the first priority will go to high density routes. For example, New Delhi, Mumbai, New Delhi, Havra section, which is these are very high density routes, more chance of TCAS or train collision. So therefore, this is where the first application is there. Second is called highly used networks. In this, basically the Havra, Chennai and the Kharagpur route comes through. And that is why it was on the priority list, second or third in that regard. So should we use it? Yes, we should. Is it a good system? Yes, it is. Does it have any basic disadvantage? No. The simple point of the matter is, would it have helped in Balasore? No. So yes, we can say that it is something which should be applied, but this was not the immediate solution for what really happened. For immediate solution, we need 2 things. And that is what the solution Indian Railways is also working with, is called double interlocking. There are 2 things which are in news right now: double interlocking and better signaling. See, it was a signaling issue because green was given, then it was made red. And second is double interlocking means that right now when this interlock works, there is only one. There's only one. Rather, there should be double, in the sense 2 basic tracks need to move. This is called double interlocking. This is also called single interlocking. Single interlocking, the chance of derailment is also more and the chance of it having errors is more. So double interlocking is when, very simply, you have one track and the second track goes behind. There is actually a box here. And you would have heard it again. The technical term, it's called the location box. You would have heard it about it. There's something called a box and you would have seen it on train stations also. It looks something like this. It's called a location box, something like this. It's called a location box. Basically, all the electronic movement devices are here in the location box. So location box actually pulls. It's a very simple system. The this and this, there's a very simple pulley here. So what happens is that when the person changes the interlock, the pulley moves and the interlock becomes either straight or it goes left. This is called single interlocking, wherein there's only one arm. In double interlocking, until unless you pull two levers together in a certain fashion, the interlock does not change. So interlockings are very simply a signaling apparatus. Along with that, it is a train. I'm showing you an interlock. The people who are asking what is interlocking, this is called an interlock. This is exact interlocking. You'd have seen it in movies also, that when interlock works, the hero gets his leg gets caught up in the interlock itself, or some very vulnerable personality in the movie, he would be saved or something will happen. People tend to get stuck in interlocks also. So I hope you've seen some movie for sure, or seen interlocking yourself in your life for sure. If you've not seen it, next time when you go on a train, you would see the train is snaking around. When it snakes, it's basically crossing and interlocking. But if the best example I can give it to you is in movies, interlocking, the leg of the vulnerable personality gets stuck when the interlock changes. So double interlocking is when the lever which is needed to move is not single but to double. You don't have to learn that. The location box changes, the way it is electronically controlled is also changed. So there's a lot of railways is a very complex, what we call as mechanical based system itself. But the simple point of the matter is you don't have to do a thesis now on the interlocking. Simple point is interlocking, signals issue, TCAS, Kavach. Clear, everybody? Any movie, there are whatever movie, I don't know. The simple point of the matter is you would have seen it for sure in your life. Is this clear? Okay. Just looping is not considered by Kavach. Both train and station think. See, looping is important. Looping is important. And if you've been to Varanasi station or Tiruchirappalli in very big, what are called, see, you would have seen some stations are called junctions. Have you ever noticed some stations are called stations and some are called junctions? Havra Junction, Chennai, Tiruchirappalli Junction. Junction basically means that there are multiple loops. There are multiple loops. When Prayagraj Junction, basically junctions are where there are multiple loops. And if you've ever been in the train and ever seen out, you would see 8 to 9 tracks itself. But very simply, what happens is that there will be 2 tracks which would be coming. And then they would be becoming into 7 to 8, 9, 10 different junctions are there. Some you would have seen something like this for sure in your life. I hope you're that much observant because you are a UPSC aspirant. So these are called junctions. So junctions are multiple tracks, but they all come together. So every point which you see here is an interlocking. So in that regard, terminus is also the same thing in English, right? Can we take the prelims question here? I basically put in quite a lot of time to explain to you the whole system and the incident itself. See, sabotage and tampering is a separate issue altogether. Let the CBI do its work. We are not the CBI. We don't have to do it. Okay. TCAS can only be utilized in situation one train is in motion, other in rest. No. If there are 2 trains on the same track and they are in a certain proximity, on a certain speed, it will automatically. It's not that both have to be in motion. It's not like that. It's not like that. Okay. Let's look at the question. Now everybody has to be a little bit more attentive. You have to use the polling feature. With reference to the Kavach system, consider the following statements. Two-way communication between the station master and loco pilot is not possible within this system. It is a state-of-art electronic system with safety level 3 SIL3 standards. Which of the statements are correct? Come on. You have to tell me which is the correct statements. Everybody has to attempt it. %46 are totally correct. 13% are not listening to me. 28% are for sure not listening to me. And 14% are again not listening to me. Okay. Neither of the statements are correct. State of the art, 3, 4. SIL 4. Very simple. Second, two-way communication is possible. That is the whole point. In SOS and in every system, two-way communication is possible. And that is why it is an important concept. So this statement is also incorrect. Two-way communication is possible. SOS simple. The SOS message, the basic monitoring, and everything is based on two-way communication only. That the loco pilot can send certain message to station master can send certain message to loco pilot. So the SIL level is incorrect here, and it is possible within the system. So neither of the statements are correct. Again, very small points, very, very small points. But in the exam perspective, these questions become extremely difficult because over a year you will read it, and once you will go into the examination, Kavach will not make sense. That is, I've tried to give you live examples, straightforward understanding of the system. Two-way communication is the bedrock of the whole system itself. Because if there's two-way communication, the station master can know where the train is, the loco pilot can send a message to the station master, and it's a feedback loop which has been created. So first option is incorrect. Second option is not safety level 3, but 4, which is the highest standard in European concept. Right? Okay. So with this, we move to the second topic. First topic, totally clear. The biggest in that regard, the most technical in that sense. Okay. Now, when we talk about Indus X or ISET, these terms are extremely important for you because they have been in the news. And when we talk about the context in which they have been in the news, the very simple point is that these are two things which you will hear more and more when it will come to the recent visit or the visit which is going to happen in June of the Prime Minister in the US. So very simply, the US has been planning a major state visit of India, and the Prime Minister is going to the US in the next 1 week or so. And Indus X and ISET have been in the news before that also and will be in the news further also. That is why this is an important concept we have to understand. Now, this Indus X is first thing straightforward, US and India based international relations concept. First things first. Very straightforward. It is about cooperation, and it is about cooperation, a very specific thing. So let's try to understand again the straightforward thing, and then we'll go into the nitty-gritty because there are technical terms here, and I'll tell you why is this news very, very important for you generally, and how do we perceive it. So the first point is that US and India are working towards more and more defense cooperation. Now, when we talk about defense cooperation itself, India has a problematic relationship with the US. We are pushing for more and more. The US is a finicky power. It's a moody power. Today, you are my brother, everything's perfect, we are the best. And tomorrow it will start to act, who are you? I don't know. It's a very moody power. The US has always been like this, very moody power. Unlike Russia, which has always been an all-weather friend in that regard, the US has tried to change its stance from time to time. It is only when, with the rise of China in the Pacific or the Indo-Pacific itself, and generally the way China is undercutting it across the globe itself, that the US has now become more and more conscious of India. And in that context, what is called defense ecosystem is where very simply, US is trying to have partnership and cooperation. So Indus X, very simply, the word Indus X, this is for defense ecosystem, cooperation and partnership. So that we can develop certain things together, so that we can basically share data and technology. But what is more critical in this is called ISET, which is an integrated strategy in critical and emerging technologies. Emerging technologies. In this, we have already seen that there is a cooperation which is happening between ISRO and NASA, which is called the NISAR satellite itself. That's a separate issue altogether. But critical and emerging technologies such as semiconductors, such as quantum mechanics, such as what we call as artificial intelligence. These are areas where India and the US generally are trying to come together and develop. So for us, what is important is the fact that ISET allows India access to certain technology which it would not have. So Indus X and ISET, whatever be the official wording and what we will read from the PPT itself, the simple point of the matter is it allows for technology transfer. But why is this such a critical thing which is in the news? Because there's a new proposal which has come through in ISET and Indus X. And it is that we are thinking of developing jet engines with GE. GE is a very big, General Electronics is a very, very big company. We have seen it for MRI machines, CT scan machines are all GE. GE machines, GE, the company, is now bidding to develop with DRDO or any other Indian private player jet engines in India. Now, this is going to be very significant because there are already two other basic proposals, Safran from France and we have Rolls-Royce from the UK. But if India and US can develop jet engines, it will give a very critical advantage to us over China, because China does not develop its jet engines, it buys it from Russia mostly. So if we can get the basic technology to simply develop jet engines for the LCA or any other fighter jet we are thinking of developing for 4th generation, 5th generation, 5th generation, it could be a game changer for Indian defense and Indian Air Force. So Indus X and ISET is going to be in the news quite a lot when you will see the visit itself. We are considering a lot of things. It's a developing story, but I've told you this story right now so that you keep your eyes and ears open when you see the newspaper next time. Because multiple articles are coming in this ISET, Indus X, wherein they're talking about critical defense technology ecosystem, critical and emerging technology, cooperation and partnership. And US doing all this is very, very significant because that is the strategic edge which US has over everybody else. So the basic point of this article is defense ecosystem cooperation and partnership. And second, which is critical emerging technologies and the basic way in which they are coming together to produce these new areas. We will see there are certain areas in which India and US both have identified they want to do it, wherein you have quantum computing, artificial intelligence, quantum intelligence, the concept of semiconductors, defense, space. So we are actually deciding as we go on, what do we add to ISET? ISET is more significant than Indus X, but Indus X is equally important because of the jet engine proposal. Basic points clear, then we will go into the aspect of very simple, smaller points, nitty-gritties. Basic point should be clear. Yes, it is. Great. So let's talk about Indus X first. Indus X is about partnership and collaboration in defense innovation ecosystem. So it's about defense, ecosystem, and innovation. It's also about partnership and cooperation between India and US defense actors, so DRDO and a lot of different private companies from the US. It also wants to have collaborative research, development, and production, so that high-tech cooperation can happen generally. Further, the collaboration would also lead to better supply chain insecurity because there is a lot of demand, but the supply is not there. And last but not the least is co-development and co-production. This is where this project is extremely important. Co-development means technology transfer. And co-production also leads to better efficiency and access to new technology. Herein, DRDO could learn and get a lot of new concepts. And this is why IndusX is very important, because it allows for India to develop certain things with the US, which would not have been possible maybe 2-3 decades ago. But IndusX is the new game changer. The second is called ICET, Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technologies. This is again about collaboration on new areas which are emerging. What are the new areas which have been identified? 6 are there, in which India is going to actually compete with, not basically compete, but cooperate with the US and learn quantum and artificial intelligence, very important, defense innovation, space, telecommunications, and semiconductors. If you look at it, each one of them is actually very, very important. Yes, IndusX, the word comes from India, US, IndusX, cooperation. X is for cooperation. So ICET aims to leverage strength of both the countries in innovation, economic growth, and national security. So if you look at it, IndusX is more about defense, ICET is more about emerging technologies. See, this is extremely important because US has never done something like this with India. We have done it in under BrahMos for the India and Russia relationship. We have developed quite a lot of things with Russia, but we have never developed anything in collaboration with the US. And that is why ICET becomes important, IndusX becomes important. Now, what is the most significant concept here? The significant concept here is that jointly this will be discussed after 18 June to produce indigenous jet engines with either GE, which is competing with Safran of France and Rolls-Royce of the UK. And if US agrees to transfer jet engine technology, China also does not have this capability, which we have or we can have if this happens under IndusX and ICET. So before I go to the question itself, the simple point of the matter is, what is this concept? IndusX, defense innovation ecosystem, collaboration partnership. Please remember these 5 words. ICET, critical and emerging technologies, quantum and artificial intelligence, space, defense, telecommunications, and semiconductors. All very, very important concepts with regards to how India can have a certain type of collaboration with the US. Some of you are saying, how has the US changed? Why is this happening? See, this is the importance of India in the Indo-Pacific. In order to balance China, in order to find a better approach towards the national security and the international security in this area, the US has to do it. So the US is obviously not going to give you the F-22 Raptor technology. GE will not develop a 5th generation fighter with us. But any generation fighter, the technology transfer is going to be significant. They will obviously strategically hold certain information. They will obviously not give you everything. But the simple point of the matter is, this cooperation is symbolic, and the symbolic cooperation itself is important. So how does it translate is a different issue altogether. So as of right now, these are 2 concepts which will be discussed next week. And I hope you are going to be extremely conscious of that. Yes? General Electric is the company from America, GE. Okay. China can reverse engineer, but it will reverse engineer Russian fighter. Russian engines are not considered that good as much as the American engine. Okay. Under the ICET initiative, India and the US will focus on which of the following? Quantum intelligence, defense, space, semiconductors. which of the above are correct? In the sense, which of these 2, 3, 4, 1 we are going to focus under ISET. Okay. Come on. Everybody has to answer. Come on, last sense. Perfect. Here people were listening to me more. 64% of all of the above, 19% C. For some reason, defense they have ignored, 8 and 10%. See, very simply, quantum intelligence, yes. Defense, that is the basis of this whole relationship. Space, yes. Semiconductors, if you add artificial intelligence and telecommunications, artificial intelligence, AI, and telecommunications, the whole becomes 6 areas which are there. So space is also there. We are already doing it. Under NISAR, we are doing it. There is already there. Okay. See, ISET. See, ISET. Defense innovation. The people who are overthinking, stop doing it. IndusX is a separate, but within ISET also defense innovation is there. So don't do that. Don't do that. Stop overthinking. Okay, IndusX was that. No. Defense is in IndusX also, in ISET also. Right. Third topic. Can we talk about Agni Prime? Semiconductors is what you need to, what are called chips. All chipsets, everything are made of semiconductors. Now comes Agni. India has a whole array of missiles. When we talk about the integrated guided missile development program, we have multiple missiles we've developed under it, started by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam himself. The aspect here is integrated guided missile system program. Agni is part of it. There are other 5 other, you can remember it like this, Patna, and you can always remember the ones which have been developed. Prithvi, Agni, Trishul, Nag, and Akash. These are the 5 missiles which we developed under integrated guided missile program. Some are surface to air missiles, some are surface to surface. We have cruise missiles and ballistic missiles. So cruise missile, most important cruise missile which India has, which is the one? Come on, tell me. Which is the most important cruise missile which India has? Very good. It is BrahMos. BrahMos has not been matched by anybody else. The supersonic, what we call as cruise missile, developed with Russia. Now, after this, under ballistic missiles, see, Nag is an anti-tank missile. Other than that, the other 3 are surface to air or surface to surface. For example, Prithvi is surface to surface, Agni is surface to surface, Trishul is surface to air, Akash is surface to air. The simple aspect here is that Agni has always been a very important, what we call as missile system, because of the fact that Agni has what is called Agni 5. Agni has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2 are maximum 2000 range. Thereafter, you have 3, 4, which reaches 3500, 4000 kilometers range. But Agni 5 is the game changer, which was developed specifically for China, it is called an intercontinental ballistic missile. It's called an intercontinental ballistic missile because it has range more than 5000 kilometers. So Prithvi and Agni 1 to 4 were enough for Pakistan, more than enough for Pakistan. But for China, Agni 5 was needed. It's an ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missile. But Agni Prime is the new one which has been introduced. So the way we introduced different phones. We have iPhone 14, 14 Plus, and 14 Max. This is Agni Prime. Agni Prime basically fits in between 1 and 2. Agni 1 and 2, this is 1000 to 2000 kilometers. So basically, we will not need two other 1 and 2, but Agni Prime in that regard. So why was it in the news? Because of the fact that there has been a very important new generation Agni Prime successful test, which happened just last week at the Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Island off the coast of Odisha. And this whole series, Agni, is extremely important. Let's go into the nitty-gritty. So you have Agni Prime, Agni 1, 700 to 800 kilometers, Agni 2, 2000, Agni 3, 2500. Above 3500, it is Agni 4, and Agni 5 is ICBM because it is over 5000. Agni series in itself, we don't have to learn the range, but just need to know that Agni 5 is called intercontinental ballistic missile. Others are not called intercontinental because 700, 2000, 3500, 4000. What you have to remember is this number of stages. For example, till Agni 4, they are all two stage. And the most important aspect about Agni series is they are solid fuel used. The fuel which is inside it, it's solid. You would have heard solid, liquid, cryogenic with regards to ISRO. So the same solid is very simply used in Agni series itself. This is called solid based 3-stage rocket. That is why it's called Agni 5. Agni 5 has first stage, second stage, third stage. They burn subsequently, giving it a very, very huge range from 5000 to 8000 kilometers. But in our whole series, in our whole set of different rockets, Agni is quite unique. See, we have under Integrated Guided Missile Development Program, Patna 5 missiles. Prithvi, short range, surface to surface. Agni, different ranges, but surface to surface. Trishul, short range, surface to air. The most important, which we are selling to even the Southeast Asians, which is Akash, medium range, surface to air. And Trishul and Nag basically is anti-tank missile. Nag can also be fired from a helicopter that becomes Helena. Now, why have we been developing so many different rockets? See, we have Prahar, which is 150 kilometers, enough for Pakistan. Then we have BrahMos. This is a cruise missile, not a ballistic missile. Very highly accurate, very quick. Nobody can intercept it. Thereafter, Prithvi was again made for Pakistan because 350 kilometers, we can hit any part of Pakistan if launched from the western sector itself. Then comes the Agni series. Agni series is where we wanted to target beyond Pakistan. And therein, Agni 5 is the most important because it can touch even parts of Russia. In between that, we have Nirbhay, small but are indigenously developed cruise missile. And thereafter, Agni 2, 3, 4. Agni 2, 3, 4, and 5, all of them were developed specifically for China, for different sectors in China. Though we will never use it, that's a separate issue altogether. But having the capability to hit A2, A3, A4, A5, whatever you see is all Agni 2, 3, 4, 5. This gives you the capability to go close to the Arctic Circle also. This is very, very significant in that regard because this allows India to have an array of ballistic missiles, which helps. So this is the first context. What is the difference between ballistic and cruise? No, don't know it. What is the difference between ballistic and cruise? Okay. Now, how do you differentiate between ballistic and cruise? See, very simply, it's the way it is launched and the way it hits the target. Firstly, cruise missiles have low range but are very quick. And mostly cruise missiles are called terrain hugging. They will be launched and thereafter they will very quickly go towards the target A. This is called a cruise missile. They're terrain hugging, they have gyroscopes, they can be maneuvered, they can shift, they can move. On the other hand, ballistic missiles, the name should come from what is called ballistic. They are launched first into the orbit, it will go into the orbit, then it will have a parabolic path back to A. So the first stage will launch, first stage will burn, then second stage will burn, then third stage will burn. And once it is at the top, then the warhead will come back and re-enter into the into the atmosphere, and then towards the target itself. So very simply, if this is the atmosphere, cruise missiles basically are quick, Tomahawk, BrahMos, very quick, maneuverable, small warheads, but nuclear capable. Whilst ballistic missiles are like basic rockets. They have certain stages, they will go into the orbit, then they will come back. They use Earth's gravity to come back. It's a parabolic path, which ballistic missiles take. Cruise missiles are much more straightforward, terrain hugging in that regard. Is this clear? Yeah, cruise missiles can be steered. Nowadays, ballistic missiles after re-entering can also be steered. It's everything is there, but there. Okay. Now, let's talk about Agni Prime. Till this point, everybody is with me. No issues at all. What is the Agni series? What is the integrated missile development technology? And generally, the Agni, Trishul, Akash and all. Now, what is specific to Agni Prime you need to know? Agni Prime, very simply, two stage. Please remember this, two stages. One stage is going to be here. It will first burn, and then the second stage will burn, and then it will go into the air, and only the warhead will come back, and therefore it is two stage. Second, it is the latest, and most probably it is going to replace the Agni 1 and Agni 2. Developed under the IGMDP, which is Integrated Guided Missile Development Program. 1,000 to 2,000 kilometers, and solid fuel. One more advantage of Agni Prime is it is canister launch. Canister launch means that trucks can have these canisters on their back. What is the advantage of having missiles on trucks? What is the most important concept? Come on. What does, yes, very good. Movement, mobility. Mobility is very, very good. So if I have to hit Pakistan, I will go to the west sector. If I have to hit anything in the South Asian sector, I will go towards the east. So canister launch gives you two very basic advantages. First, mobility. Second, unpredictability. Because if your rockets are always moving around, your enemy cannot target your specific rocket facilities. This is a very important point you need to know. We're in two stage, solid, 1,000 to 2,000 kilometers. Over and above that, going to most probably replace 1 and 2, most probably 2 in that regard. And simple point of the matter is, this is much more easier to fire, much more maneuverable, canister launch, which makes it very, very important. All Agni missiles are solid. All Agni missiles are solid. Because for the thrust which is needed, solid is there. Because it has a warhead, liquid fuel becomes a little bit unstable. Because liquid can lead to more probabilities of it bursting. So solid fuel is much more stable than a liquid fueled, what we call as engine or thrust capacitor. Okay. Independently re-entry, everything is there. Everything is there. It can go up and then it can burst into 5, 6 and then come back. All of that features is there, where this can further split up into there. All features are there. Already, obviously, if we are developing it in 2023, it will have all these features. We have already 1 and 2, then why do we need Agni Prime? See, very simply, 1 and 2 developing further makes no sense, because one rocket can replace both of them. So Agni Prime is being developed with better technology, better fuel, and better re-entry warheads with better capabilities. So it's about where do you take the development. 1 and 2 will be discontinued. Prime, so we'll have Prime 3, 4, 5. That is going to be there most probably. Fire and forget is also there. See, we don't have to use it. So it doesn't really matter if there is fire and forget. But the simple point of the matter is, yes, fire and forget is there, but fire and forget mostly is not good for ballistic missiles. Why is fire and forget not good for ballistic missiles? Come on, tell me. If you do fire and forget in ballistic missiles, what is the biggest disadvantage of a ballistic missile? Biggest disadvantage. Ballistics don't have maneuverability. Yes, very good. They are traceable. They are more interceptable. If it will go, it will take 2 minutes and then come back. Ballistic missiles can actually be intercepted. Much like cruise missiles. Cruise missiles are much faster. You cannot intercept a cruise missile. whilst ballistic missiles are very easy to intercept. What is fire and forget? That you fire it, you lock in the locations, then you don't have to do anything. It will automatically hit the target. Okay. So very simply, the problem with ballistic missiles is that they can be intercepted. For example, what is the technology we've taken from Russia which intercepts ballistic missiles, for which we have also been prosecuted to some way? Very good. Perfect. Everybody is a army brigadier here. Very good. S-400. S-400 has been taken from us. It is a very advanced Russian anti-ballistic missile system. S-400 has been in the news quite a lot also. So S-400 has been in the news also because of Russia, Ukraine. S-400 has been used multiple times till this point of time. Patriot is also exactly same thing, but the US. Patriot missile was in the news because of South Korea using it recently. So Patriot is US drone, US based. S-400 is Russia based. Okay. THAAD is also the same thing. THAAD is also same thing, but THAAD is again US. Okay. What was the significance of the launch? It was the first pre-induction night launch conducted by the Tri-Service Strategic Force Command. And after the successful launch, it can now be integrated into the Army and the Air Force. Accuracy and reliability was validated. All objectives were demonstrated. And the missile is most probably going to replace 1 and 2 both. And therefore, Agni Prime is the future of Indian ballistic missiles. Any issue? Iron Dome is a totally different concept. Israel, Iron Dome, totally different concept. Because Iron Dome is not based, it's for smaller rockets. It's for Javelin and all, not for ballistic missiles. Palestine does not have ballistic missiles. So pre-induction, the night launch, in the sense that it was launched in the night to see that the equipment is able to, in pitch dark, also maneuver it. Okay. Which is better? See, both are important for their purposes. 1.5 ton warhead cannot be pushed onto a BrahMos. BrahMos, small warheads will be there. So maybe if the blast radius of a cruise missile is 2 kilometers, ballistic missile is going to be 5 to 10 kilometers. So both have their own purposes. Both have their own purposes. Tri-Service Strategic Commands means all the three services, Army, Air Force, and the Navy together have a Tri-Service Command, which does induction and check if it's working for all three of them or not. Cost effective is a different issue altogether. It's the basic point of the matter is both have their purpose. It's like pen and pencil. A pen needs to be used where it is. Pencil is going to be used where it needs to be used. So both have their own purposes in that regard. Okay. Can we now take the prelims question? Everybody's comfortable with this topic. Interesting one. Defense ones are always interesting. Yes. Okay. With reference to Agni Prime missile, which was recently in the news, consider the following statements. It is a 3-stage intercontinental ballistic missile. It can be launched through canister, which provides it mobility. Come on. This is an easy question if you've been paying attention. Independently targetable re-entry vehicles means that it goes 1, it splits up into 3, 1, 2, 3, and all 3 can be independently targeted to certain places. Come on, last 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Very good. 3%, 61% are totally correct. 30% have not been listening to me, and 5% have actually not been listening to me. Okay. It can be launched through canisters. Totally right. Agni Prime is 3-stage. And it says ICBM. ICBM can only be for a 5,000 kilometers more than. So this is both ways incorrect. It is 2-stage and not an ICBM. 2-stage solid fuel, and out of the Agni series, only Agni 5 can be called an intercontinental ballistic missile. Intercontinental ballistic missile. So please pay attention to the fact that out of the whole Agni series, only one is called intercontinental ballistic missile. Other than that, out of the whole series, only one is 3-stage. Other than that, only 2 stages. So smaller details, these small details matter in the examination. As it is, you would have seen, now CSAT is mattering more than anything. But remember that these small details can be make or break for you generally. 2 stages means that the rocket has 2 stages. First, it burns the first stage to reach a certain altitude. Then the second stage burns and then it comes back. 2 stages solid fuel. Yes, both are solid fuel. Both are solid fuel. Okay, can we move to Atlantic Declaration? Easy topic, straightforward, not a lot of complication here, as it is not does not pertain to us, but declarations are always important for the exam. Everybody is following me till this point. What have we done till this point? This is called, now I'm doing summary. Summary for the 3 topics we've done. First, we discuss Kavach and its basic features, how Balasore would not have been an incident in which Kavach would have saved. Second, we discuss Indus-X and ISET. ISET and Indus-X was more about how we are going for better cooperation with the US. And third is the Agni Prime missile. I hope nobody has any issue till this point. Yes, if one train have Kavach, others does not have, still it will stop. Don't make it a CSAT question. One train has done a question, it will work even if one system has it. One. Okay, so we'll move to the Atlantic Declaration. Now, Atlantic Declaration, what you actually have to remember is very simple thing. The US and the UK, United States and the English, the 2 monsters of the world, the Americans, and we love the English as it is. English and Americans have come together in what is called the economic partnership. And within that economic partnership, they have 5 pillars on which they will cooperate. But why is this topic important for us? Firstly, it is declaration, so it is important. Second, these 5 pillars can be significant for India also. Third is Atlantic. Atlantic, because how US and UK are linked. That is the very simple way of what we call getting the hint for that concept, which is US and UK. Atlantic is what links them both. So very simply, Atlantic Declaration, economic partnership, 5 pillars. That is it. Will you remember US and UK? If you can, just remember Atlantic, A and U. That's it. AAU. Other than that, this topic has nothing more, but it is significant for the examination. Okay. So what is it? It's a 25, what we call as 21st century US-UK economic partnership focused on resilient, diversified supply chain. You would hear this word supply chain quite a lot because of the fact that supply chains as it is have now become problematic since COVID. So since COVID, the question has come to the fact that can supply chains be protected and secured? So COVID impacted supply chains the most. Therefore, this new concept of supply chains alternative to China. And China as of right now is extremely pivotal in all supply chains, and it's about diversification of supply chains in that regard. So leverage energy transition, breakthroughs, growth, doesn't matter to us. Under the Atlantic Declaration, there's something called ADAPT. This is again important for you. ADAPT is a comprehensive strategy, Atlantic Declaration action plan, under which 5 key pillars they want to very simply cooperate on. What are the 5 pillars on which they want to cooperate? And this is important for you and me because it reminds us and it tells us what are the areas in which different countries are coming together. What are the 5 pillars, Jyoti? These are the 5 pillars. First, critical and emerging technology. This word is coming back every time. For anybody who's writing mains, please understand critical emerging technologies will appear in the examination for sure. Everywhere we see critical and emerging technologies coming. India, ISET, India, critical emerging technology. This is also critical emerging technology. What is artificial intelligence, quantum computing, biotechnology, advanced manufacturing? So please understand this, important. Further, economic security, technology protection. Economic security, technology protection. Cyber security is very important. Supply chain resilience, technology governance. Supply chain resilience is very, very important word because of China. China supplies to both in very huge numbers, so they want a little bit more diversification. Then digital transformation, inclusive responsive digital transformation. This word inclusive is important because you never hear it from either the English or the Americans. Clean energy, important for global warming. Defense, security and space. Defense already, they have NATO, but health and security has become new. Health specifically after COVID. So you can see after COVID-19, certain new concepts have come in. Yes, there's no defense and the concept of semiconductors for them, but their relationship is totally different. It's more about technology and it's more about supply chain resilience. So very simply, what you have to remember for the examination, Atlantic Declaration is US UK, economic partnership, adapt is related to it, 5 pillars, critical emerging technology, supply chain resilience, inclusive digital transformation, clean energy, and health defense alliance. That's it. Inclusive means that they want to now have a more inclusive impact on their population. In America, it's a very capitalist economy. It's more about market-based understanding. The word inclusive itself is a little bit more towards what we call as a socialistic understanding, in this that they want everybody to be part of the whole system in that regard. Okay. Why is this declaration important for India? Because both are key strategic partners for India. And generally, if we can create a better relationship with both, it can become a triangle. More than that, because declarations are generally asked in the examination, and I'll give you that type of question, it's generally important to know. Yes, let's just take a question. We don't have to. Adapt is it within the Atlantic Declaration, an action plan for 5 pillars. That's it. Okay. Why the name Atlantic? Because the Atlantic Ocean, the US is on one side and the UK is on the other. World geography, come on, this much. One side America friend with Russia, another side US helping Ukraine. How? America friend with who said America is a friend of Russia? No. Okay. The Atlantic Declaration, which was recent in the news, is signed between, very easy question. I'm not even going to read the options. You have to very simply answer this. It's the most easiest question of all we've done today. Inclusive and responsible digital transformation. What is meant by inclusive, responsible? See, inclusive means everybody is part of it. Responsible means that it needs to be done in the most secure way possible. Any trade? No, it's not. That is the Akshat irony here. It's not trade. It's more about supply chain. The word trade has now been replaced by supply chains nowadays. Agni Prime and Agni Ballistic difference is going to be range. Very good. 96%. Pat on the back. Very good. This is the only thing you need to remember. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. In the examination, see, these things seem easy right now, but when it will come to the examination, because you know a lot of information, use the word Atlantic as a hint. It's not that easy, but it's obvious. Sometimes obvious things also come in the exam. Okay. Now let's move to Mahir. Now, this is an important discussion we need to have. See, Mahir mission is related to the power sector. Please pay attention now. A lot of you are distracted. Please pay attention. So Mahir is related to the power sector. And in this, the Ministry of Power and the Ministry of Renewable Energy have come together to again make sure that emerging technologies can be tapped. So what they want is cooperation, innovation, research, and early adaptation. So the Mahir mission basically is about, again, emerging technology. The fourth time we are taking this word, and that is why I'm telling you it's a very important concept which has emerged in India and generally across the world, emerging technologies. And we'll talk about these emerging technologies which they're talking about. The simple point of the matter is that Mahir mission on advanced and high impact research to leverage emerging technology in the power sector is a Ministry of Power, Ministry of Renewable Energy jointly have gone for identifying and developing emerging technologies so that they can be indigenously developed and deployed within and outside India. So very simply, see, India has somehow forgot, or we can say missed, a lot of different important moments in world technological history. 5G we actually totally missed. 4G we are again not a pioneers in that. India wants to be now ready to catch the train which takes us to the next level. So India very simply is now trying to leverage and develop indigenously what are called emerging technologies and make sure that they can be deployed as quickly as possible. So this is a very good governance move in which that we can see they are already trying to figure out how to go forward and how to make sure that the emerging technologies don't go out of our hand. That is why 6G already we have a total mission about it. There are certain technologies which need to be leveraged. And this is a very good move. So the Mahir mission, the problem is Mahir does not actually entail anything about power. So it does not have a P. So it's about advanced and high impact research. And therefore, it is important that we understand what are the areas in which they want to do it. A very obvious question is going to be which two ministries are involved: standard, power, and new and renewable energy. And it is related to power sector. This much you have to understand irrespective of anything. So what are we doing to do about, or what are we technically thinking about in this mission? Technologies, implementation, main fuel of the future. What they want to do is leverage and develop the major fuels which are going to be the future and make India a manufacturing hub for that. And we are trying to keep it for the first next 5 years in that regard. So 2023 to 2028, we want to tap into these technologies. What are the objectives? Again, don't have to learn the objectives. Which two ministries? Power and renewable energy, obviously, because power is the one which will implement it. Renewable energy is what is going to be used in that. Now, you don't have to learn the objectives, but look at the words that are always important. Identify emerging technologies, identification. Support pilot programs so that they can work. Seed, nurture, scale up. Again, important. Research and development. So we scale, we nurture, we seed so that we can support and identify the new technologies. Further, common platform for collective brainstorming. So again, related to R&D. Foreign alliances and PPP. So we want foreign alliance and PPP. And last but not the least is make our nation leading countries in these new technologies. Now, what are these new technologies which are under focus? Now, please, I'm going to explain to you all of them a little bit, but we don't need to do a thesis. See, first is alternatives to lithium ion storage batteries. And there are multiple alternatives as of right now. We have what are called aqueous magnesium batteries, and now you don't need to know anything further right now, but if you are interested you can Google it or watch a video about it. But they're called aqueous magnesium batteries. You have solid state batteries. I will tell you what do you mean by solid state. Then you have sodium based batteries. Then you have graphene based batteries, and the other one is called the manganese hydrogen batteries. So basically, we are looking for alternatives to lithium. Lithium is what is used nowadays. Your phone uses it, everything we use has it. But it is about how do we leverage it in a way that we have new, better batteries in the grid. Solid state is very important. What solid state means that if you've ever seen a battery, you would know that the electrolyte is liquid state. Solid state batteries remove the liquid which is inside a battery so as to make it more compact and less volatile. So the first thing is to have different types of batteries which can be alternatives to lithium, which is very not that bigger rare earth metal, but because lithium needs cobalt and nickel more, which is little bit more rare earth metal. Thereafter, electric cookers and pans should be made for Indian cooking methods, because nowadays electric rice cookers and all don't support what we as Indians want to use it for. Green hydrogen for mobility. So hydrogen produced through electrolysis of water through renewable energy is called green hydrogen. So you can get different type of hydrogen, but if hydrogen is produced through using electricity made out of thermal power plants, it's not called green. Green is when the electrolysis is using renewable energy. Electrolysis is the splitting of the water ion. Then carbon capture, standard carbon sinks needs to be produced. Sequestration, geothermal energy, using the heat of the mantle to produce the heat for our electricity. Solid state refrigeration, this is again a new concept. Our refrigerators, what they have basically is that they have what are called tubes and they have compressors. So the heat is taken away and they are put into compressors, and that is the way we actually make refrigerators. Solid state refrigeration is what are called thermoelectric. They use electricity in such a way that the heat is taken away without using compressors. Then nanotechnology in EV batteries. So electric vehicles, nanotechnology can make them efficient and more range. And last is what called CRGO, or cold cold rolled grain oriented steel. What do you mean by this? Basically, if you add a little bit of silica to iron, it becomes better in the strength, efficiency, and conductivity. So that ways it's a very significant 8 areas in which we want to leverage and go forward in that regard. So again, you don't have to learn each one of them. We have identified these 8 areas in which we want to do: batteries, cooking, mobility, green hydrogen, carbon capture, geothermal, solid state refrigeration, nanotechnology, and CRGO. But the basic point is that let's see how it pans out in the next 5 years. It's a good initiative because we want to identify, support, nurture, and have partnerships in this area. More or less clear? Yes, you don't need to learn any of this. You just need to understand it. Understand that we are trying to be ahead of the curve. That is it. Yes, futuristic. Perfect. Okay. Significance. What is the significance of all of this? Significance is India is trying to tap all these 8 areas before either someone else becomes the pioneer, someone else finds the solution, and because it needs a lot of research and development, India wants to be the foremost. This is very good because India kept research and development mostly at the back burner. Now, for the first time, India is trying to have a pioneering aspect and a pioneering move. India wants to be the one which breaks through into these 8 areas identified. Clear, everybody? For front runner, pioneer, whatever word you want to use. Okay. The Mahir mission, which was recently in the news, was launched by, come on, Education, Home Affairs, Niti Aayog, Women Child Development, Power, Renewable, Home Affairs, Renewable. Very easy question. But again, in the context of the examination becomes difficult. Solid state refrigerations don't have compressor and tubes. They use thermoelectricity. That's called thermodynamics, basically, to change the temperature within the system itself. You not have to become engineers here, but yeah. Okay, come on. Perfect, 91%. Simple. And see, it's very easy. If you know Mahir is related to power, you know it is power. and all of them are related to carbon sequestration, geothermal. So it becomes renewable energy. So it's easy to understand and remember also. Okay, very good. Now, three rather very small topics, but important. You want to see the leaderboard? I'll show you the leaderboard also. This is the leaderboard. It should be in front of you right now. Eni, Bhumika, Anshika, Sarath, Pratham, Moses, then Thigai, Roshni, Aparna. Were quite a lot of people on first. If you're not in the first 14, it does not show. It's about how quickly you answer. That is why it keeps you like that. But there will be a lot of people which will have rank 1. That I know. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about Povaasan. See, I can't show beyond a certain point. All automated. I am not the one who does it. It's all created by the server, so not me. Yes, 1 second. Yes. Can we go on to Povaasan? Happy with the leaderboard? Very good. Okay. Now, Povaasan virus. See, this is again not related to us because not very common in India. But again, something which can become common in India any day, and it's a virus, so you need to know its name. So Povaasan is basically a place in Ontario in US, and it's a tick-based virus. Tick-based virus. Ticks are very simply small bugs. You'd have seen it for yourself. Very small bugs look like this. Very small bugs, and ticks are very common in what we call as deers, squirrels. In the wild, they are actually available quite a lot, and in dogs, they are the most vulnerable in that regard because they start to scratch themselves. Ticks are very common in dogs, and the Powassan virus basically spreads through ticks, and if a tick bites a human, then it transferred the Powassan virus. Now, the problem is that mostly it is not fatal. But recently, there was a fatality in the US because of the Powassan virus. And more than that, it shows very standard symptoms. But the fatality comes from the fact that it can lead to, tick is a small insect. It's an insect. It can lead to meningitis and can even lead to the inflammation of the brain. And that is why it's dangerous if it is quite serious in that regard. Now, very simply, we need to only learn the name of the virus. We need to understand that how is it mitigated and what are its symptoms. So recently, Powassan virus case claimed its first victim in the United States of America. It is also called the ticking time bomb or named after Powassan in Ontario in the US, where it was first found in 1958. It is basically called a Favi virus. Favi virus. Favi virus is the subgenre of viruses transmitted through ticks, and it's called a tick-borne elephantitis virus complex. Very simply, because it leads to inflammation, it is an encephalitis virus complex. So therefore, very common. Now remember, very common in the Great Lake areas of North America, and the deer ticks, the groundhog tick, and the squirrel ticks are the ones which actually affect the most. Mostly common in the American sector. So in India, we have not known of the Powassan virus itself. In Africa also, we don't know of this. It's just basically a very specific Russia and US, that whole area, Great Lakes area, temperate torrid type zone, the transitionary in that regard. Considerable number get affected. It can give you fever, headache, vomiting, weakness, but every flu does it. Every virus does it. It is only in serious cases that it becomes problematic because it can lead to confusion, difficulty in speaking, loss of coordination, and seizures. And the encephalitis can lead to brain infection or meningitis, which is the inflammation or infection in the membranes of the spinal cord. And that can lead to overall well-being of a person and generally death itself. Now, very simply, if it's a virus, what is the way we mitigate it? What is the way we mitigate it? Will antibiotics work on viruses? Very good. That is the only thing you need to know. Viruses, as it is, it's called an antibiotic. So basically, it's against bacteria. There is no medication for Powassan. There is no antibiotic, as it is, will not work. Viruses will automatically have cycles. You have to mitigate it. Resting few fluids can help. But as of right now, no vaccines. No vaccines. Vaccines are the only way through which you can introduce it in your body so that the body already knows how to mitigate it. But simple point of the matter is no medication, no virus vaccine, nothing. So for us, as it is, we are not vulnerable to it. But because in India we still have a very large population of dogs, we have ticks, but not the specific type of one which is needed, which is the deer or the groundhog or the squirrel one. But the simple point of the matter is new virus to be a little bit worried about. Viruses we have taken for granted. Fatal means to be dead. So Powassan, US first death, tick based virus. This much you can remember. Three things, very simple. The Powassan cannot spread from human to human. It only spreads from tick to human. Okay, very good. With reference to the Powassan virus, consider the following statements. It is transmitted to humans through bites by ticks. It is common in the tropical countries of Africa. Which are the statements are correct? Come on. Simple question. Perfect. 82% totally correct. See, it is not common in African countries. It is common in the US, Russia, temperate type zone, where ticks are very common. This is incorrect statement. This is totally correct. Human bites two ticks. Leaderboard. You want to see leaderboard again? No issue. 82% of you are correct. The movement will not be there most probably. Yeah, here is leaderboard. Everybody adds 10, 10, 10, 10 more. People will go up and down. Happy? Okay. Ji. Okay. Now, last two topics, straightforward, simple. Antardrishti. Good names. I know, Aarti, maybe you would be rank 1. It will not show the name because it only shows the first 14 as per speed of answering. Nothing more, nothing less, nothing against you. Okay. Can in the relations between India and Russia be affected due to US? Yes. Yes, it does. Okay. See, it's not about answering, it's about understanding. Stop this leaderboard type obsession. If you're understanding it, it is more important. Okay. Antardrishti. If you had to guess it, and I want to see, if you had to guess it, which department, which organization do you think Antardrishti initiative would be? I've not told you where it is. Defense, space, radar, ISRO, space, health. Some of you know it. Culture, health, bank. Yeah, see, most of you are saying space, defense. But Antardrishti is RBI. And that is why it is important to know Antardrishti is related to RBI. RBI has launched a new dashboard, though it will only be open to itself. They will only use it. It's about financial inclusion. In 2021, they also launched what is called the Financial Inclusion Index. And financial inclusion is the word financial inclusion basically means that how much access you have to different fiscal or what we call as banking instruments or institutions. So some people have quite a lot of access. They have access to post office, they have access to banks, they have access to RBI itself. In remote areas, they don't have access to banks or ATMs. So it's about accessibility. It's about accessibility. So it is basically an initiative by RBI to monitor for itself the financial inclusion, what is the status in India. So Antardrishti, that is why the name is like this. Antar means inside, drishti means eye. So Antardrishti. So they are looking at themselves to see how good the financial inclusion is. So very good names they come up with, but Antardrishti is basically related to financial inclusion. So Reserve Bank has launched the Antardrishti Financial Inclusion Dashboard aimed at monitoring, evaluating financial inclusion in India. The simple aspect is primary objective is to assess the current state of financial inclusion or fiscal inclusion, and therefore key metrics and indicators enabling policymakers and different stakeholders to know it. It's a multi-stakeholder approach, though it will only be for internal use for RBI right now. Maybe it will be open for the people. Why is multi-stakeholder approach important? Because everybody who has to make certain decisions or even make policies have an idea how good the fiscal inclusion is in India. Now the question is, how do you see fiscal inclusion? So in 2021, RBI launched what is called the Fiscal Inclusion or Financial Inclusion Index. Under Financial Inclusion Index, there were three metrics on which they actually want to see financial inclusion: access, usage, quality. Meaning banking, investment, insurance, postal service, pensions. How much people have access to it? If they have access to it, what is the usage? And what is the quality of accessibility they have? So they marked it and they gave a score that is of no importance to us. But the basic aspect is financial inclusion means how much people have access to banks, insurance, postal services, and what is the quality of it and what is the usage of it. That is the basic point you need to remember here. Antardrishti initiative, simple topic, straightforward topic, and a straightforward question for you also. I want 100% right answer for this. There should be nobody who has got it wrong. Come on. Last topic, and thereafter we can end the session. I hope everybody is following me till this point. There's no problem. Generally, the heavier topics are over. Smaller topics for today. %95. Very good. RBI. See, I'll tell you one thing. This question seems easy, very easy. Very easy. But I give you this question in an exam situation, this will become difficult. That is why I'm telling you, don't ignore these type of questions. These are free 2 marks question. But because you have so much information in your mind, these type of questions become difficult to remember or understand. So Antardrishti, think of it like this in the way of RBI doing an introspection. So Antardrishti. These are words I'm giving you a trick to remember. Indus, India, US. Antardrishti, introspection on inclusion. That's it. Straightforward. Yes, Pulkit, it will be covered. Now, the last topic, Soul of Steel Challenge. So, the Indian government, the Indian Army, and there's a body or a NGO, if you want to call it, called CLAW. CLAW is Conquer Land, Air, Water. It's a veterans organization, meaning the people who have retired from the Indian Army or any of the different institutions of the Indian military or armed forces. These are veterans of the Army, CLAW Global and Team CLAW, they're called. Together, they have come up with a challenge which is going to be over by 18th, which is called Soul of Steel. Now, why Soul of Steel? Very simply, Soul of Steel is about endurance. So it's about high altitude endurance. It's about high altitude skill. So again, soul of steel does not come up automatically in your mind with regards to Indian Army or CLAW. So you just need to know the basic contours and basic aspects related to it. So Soul of Steel Challenge was launched recently, has now entered its last sector. CLAW Global and the Indian Army are together doing it for high altitude endurance. And there are different phases of the challenge itself. So it is jungle and mountain over 40 days, first stage, then high altitude training for 30 days, then refresher course on with international teams for 15 days, and fourth challenge is 7 days challenge in which they will go to the Nanda Devi National Park above 7,000 feet and then do expeditions, which is extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. Firstly, it is glacial and snowbound terrain, high altitude skill where there is very low oxygen. So it is literally soul of steel, and basically it is based on a concept which is there in Europe, which is called Ironman triathlon. Ironman triathlon basically is where you have to swim, you have to cycle, and you have to run all three together to check the endurance of a person. But this is much more elaborate that ways, but it is specific to high altitude skill. So please just remember this point, that it is CLAW Global, which is Conquer Air, Land, Water, Air, Special Forces Commandos of ex-India or ex-Indian Air Force or Navy or Army. And it is now reaching its last phase and it will culminate on June of 18th. That is it. So very simply launched in January. So what we have to remember in Soul of Steel is endurance, Indian Army, CLAW Global. That is it. So let's look at the question. With reference to the Soul of Steel challenge, thereafter I will give you a summary and then we can break for today. Consider the following statements. It is the world's first self-sustained high-altitude skill and endurance at such glacial and snow-bound terrains. It is modeled on the lines of the Ironman Triathlon, long distance triathlon challenge in Europe, which tests individuals' grit and endurance. Very easy question. If again you've been listening to me, it is very, very easy. After this, I want to give you a summary. That is the basic point. Can you be a part of it? Sure. You have missed it. You have to show a lot of grit. First, use your soul of steel to clear UPSC, and then you can do all of these things, no issues. Because clearing UPSC needs skill, endurance, and a lot of grit. Perfect. 65, totally correct. Self-sustained endurance modeled around triathlon. Perfect. Great. So see, before I end this session, very simply, you want to see the leaderboard. You see the leaderboard. Everybody will be happy to see the leaderboard. So eight topics. Amy, Anshika, Sarath, Pratham, Moses, Nutan, Pankhida, Nikhil, Nazla, Khalid, Akansha, Joshi, Manish, Kiran, Ramesh, Prasad, Nitya, Beauty, Harshita, Ravindra, Kumkum, Sakshi. So congratulations. If it actually means anything, that's not the point. The simple point of the matter is you would see your rank. All is immaterial. Listen to me, what we've done. What you remember is more important. See, last question was make and break. Some people thought Ironman triathlon was not right. Okay. We have done 8 topics today. We've done 8 topics today. Let's try to revise all of them and then we can break for today. First, Kavach. Kavach, 5 basic features. This is your 4th revision with me. SOS, live monitoring, traffic collision or train collision system, avoidance, the concept of early signaling, and automated whistling at level crossing. 5. Thereafter, we went into RFIDs and all other different aspects related to it. We went into INDUSX, ISET, US, defense cooperation, different 6 areas which have been identified for cooperation for emerging and critical technology. Thereafter, we discussed the concept of Agni Prime. Agni Prime, very simply, replacer of first and second prime, Agni 1 and Agni 2, and therefore Agni surface to surface missile, intercontinental ballistic missile, Agni 5, Prithvi, Akash, Trishul, Agni Nag, 5 developed under the program itself. Thereafter, Antardrishti, financial inclusion, Atlantic Declaration, US-UK economic partnership, the concept of Powassan virus, tick-based and very common in the US and Russia, and last but not the least, Soul of Steel, Indian Army, Ironman Triathlon, Claw, and high altitude endurance. Clear? Great. Perfect. So I will see you tomorrow with the MTS discussion with GS paper 1, and if not, on Thursday and Friday for CNA. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. I enjoyed the session. I hope you equally did, and I've added something to your preparation in that regard. See you soon. Next month again, back with a webinar for this month. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.